You might hit the M key and think, have we got an absolute limit to what our world map can hold? Because man, you throw a few more islands in there and it's going to be pretty crowded. The answer is firmly no. We still have so much of Azeroth to explore, and yes, even on the side of the planet we're usually on. Last time I did this, years ago, we got quite a few right. Battle for Azeroth knocked out a few big ones like Kulturas, Zandalar, and even Crestfall. Now, we're on the Dragon Isles. You may think, you've got no more islands left, why are you doing a video? No. This expansion is doing so much more than bringing us to just the Dragon Isles. It is indeed setting up a whole new era of potential. And 1007 has a ton of references to places like Tel'abim, the South Seas, and lands beyond the world map with treasure the likes of which we've never seen before. It is really exciting. I mean, before this expansion even launched, we found assets in the game files that hadn't shown up yet, and they all look like exploration. We had, well, Blood Elf destroyers, Alliance skyships, Horde Zeppelin towers, and Wyvern posts. I mean, those Night Elf boats, what are they doing? It's all stuff to get us somewhere, like today's sponsor. Squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming, the best place to rapidly establish yourself on the web. I'm actually in the middle of updating our job site with Squarespace, which is very easy with their user-friendly editor and award-winning templates. Those actually allow me to just get the web design work done when I need it to be done. Because, like, look, there's nothing worse than having a massive task list, a tight timeline, but struggling, fiddling around with stuff to get it to work. And that is exactly where the ease of use of Squarespace is fantastic. Their site builder is just so easy to use regardless of your prior experience, and with fantastic features like memberships, e-commerce, and mailing lists, they democratize a web like no other. As an example, in my job, I do look through a lot of, student portfolios and professional portfolios that come my way. And honestly, a lot don't really look pro, right? Maybe bad formatting, layouts, and navigation that makes no sense. Web design that really doesn't let somebody's art, or just whatever their work is, shine. And that's really where Squarespace can solve a big problem for a lot of people. Like if I see someone who's got the great content, right, but they've got it looking fantastic with an easy-to-use portfolio that looks snappy, runs fast, all of that stuff, then I know that, yeah, their portfolio is great in terms of the actual stuff in it. But in terms of everything else, that they're capable, resourceful, and that they want to respect my time by making my job easy. That's just one example of how Squarespace will be able to help you out. So whether you're a local business, an online seller, or a student about to embark on your career, Squarespace is the place to build your web presence. You can make your site for free today with my link, and you can use code Bellular Gaming for 10% off an annual plan when you're ready to set it live. That's squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming. Thanks to them, and let's go. Balor, the Evil Eye, Demon King of the Fomorians, and grandfather to the Sun God. That sounds like some pretty heavy metal stuff, but it's actually Irish mythology. But also, Balor is an island in Azeroth, and Blizzard kinda might have their eyes on it. Once a domain of Stormwind, it was lost in the Second War. But the Second War is far from the last time we've heard about it. Much like how the Dragon Isles were only mentioned properly by Blizzard pretty damn recently in BFA, Balor is confirmed to be something that they've thought about, because when asked why Balor didn't show up in Chronicle, Matt Burns, a Blizzard writer who has worked on Chronicle 1 through 3 and a few other things, speaking of islands, as an example, the Mechagon comic, he said they didn't put it on the map because they didn't want to lock down its location. That's kind of interesting. Originally, it was off the coast of Stormwind, south to what would evolve into the Broken Shore that we know today. In this old Warcraft 2 design map, we see a volcanic island chain. Hell, that would mesh pretty damn well with the Azeroth stuff they're doing right now. By the early development of World of Warcraft, it evolved to look like this, but then in Warcraft 3's manual, which I would say likely is a little bit more recent, it was actually moved here, with a little bit of detail being lost. Now this isn't all. Blizzard haven't really went hard Ireland yet. They have touched on us, loosely, quite a bit, but haven't fully went there. Now, Balor is a part of our mythos, and it could actually inspire some pretty incredible lore. It might even of a way of making the Fel relevant again. So in Irish myth, Balor was the king of the Fomorians, a race of sort of demon-like dudes who ruled Ireland before our ancestors, the Celts, ever showed up. He had one baleful eye on his forehead that remained closed, but when open, he would fly into a bloodlust, killing all around until it shut again. A prophecy foretold that he would be killed by his own grandson, so he locked his daughter away to prevent her from having children. But Balor was the sideshow of this prophecy. It was actually foretelling the coming of Luke, the king of the Tuatha De Danann, who are basically, we could just say, the gods of the Celts. So, Cian, a brave warrior, managed to enter the tower disguised as a woman where he fathered Luke. But Balor was cunning in his evil, discovered Luke, and threw him into the sea. But then he was rescued and raised by the sea god Manannan. I think that's how it's pronounced. Years later, Luke returned to Ireland as a warrior then and challenged Balor to battle. Balor unleashed his destructive eye, but Luke used his magic flaming spear and struck him in that eye, ending the reign of evil. And with Balor's defeat, Luke became the king of the new Lords of Ireland, the Tuatha De Danann. The Tuatha and the Fomorians were cousin races, closer to two families in one big clan than, gods and demons. They represented order and chaos, which kind of then makes me think, like, why haven't we seen Balor in Azeroth yet? You would know from Steve Denuzer's previous work at, I think it was 37 Studios, that, yeah, there's Irish myth in there. So who knows? Could they do some demonic power that has been there since the Second War? A race of Fomorians who worship the true pantheon of Fel? I mean, hell, even at Firbolg, the Firbolg are from Irish myth. So our culture's kind of already over WoW, which is kind of interesting. And if I mispronounced anything, blame the Brits. Okay, Tel'abim time. Banana Shitpost Island is what you might know it as. We basically knew nothing other than its famous bananas and the diary of a man who got shipwrecked there. And here's the final entry of that. The bananas have started talking to me, and I've learned a great deal about their culture. I have ceased my senseless destruction of their homes and consumption of their young. How little I knew then of the great civilization I was destroying. And oddly enough, patch 10.0.7 is bringing Tel'abim into the lore. Yeah. Along the Forbidden Reach is an Irontide fleet, but anchored in the distance is a seemingly abandoned ship covered in bananas. On the beach nearby is the Irontide captain Uckbeard standing triumphantly on a barrel of bananas. Surely a reference to Tel'abim then, but could the hallucinogenic effects of these bananas maybe be why the ship is anchored so far away? Quarantine while the bananas wear off. Who exactly knows? But then, there are the exploits of a famous night elf pirate called Night Squall, who supposedly stashed so much treasure on Tel'abim that the island is now 10 feet higher than when he found it in the first place. There are many fantastical tales surrounding this Night Squall figure that we find out in 10.0.7. Some of the more insane ones, maybe they are just banana-induced hallucinations, who knows? But some of it is definitely pointing to much more pirate content in our future, potentially Tel'abim. And speaking of pirates, okay, this one we had to do. Plunder Isle, I mean, come on. If we get this, then it would likely be a merger of two islands that have appeared basically in the same place. One called Plunder Isle, the other one called Hiji. They've shared similar features in many different maps. This was even, Hiji, I believe, was data mined as a place name in BFA, but it clearly didn't get developed. Now, my read here is that Hiji is the original troll name of the island, but then it later became a pirate haven. Its lore was bulked out in the now non-canonical Lands of Mystery RPG sourcebook, but much like how the RPG sourcebook talked about ships sailing beyond the Veiled Seas and never coming back, well, that's actually been canonized. We covered it in a recent video. To give you a TLDR of its pre-existing lore, Plunder Isle is a small tropical island. It is home to many dangerous creatures, including murlocs and basilisks, and the Bloodsail Buccaneers, who operate out of Bloodsail Hold. The hold keeps them safe, but not really as much as the isle itself does, because it's packed with dangerous creatures, and it has no natural base. It's all rocky chaos that means that you need pirate shenanigans to get in. From here then, the Bloodsails do their thing. But who is their leader? And that's where it's fascinating, because in WoW we officially don't know, but we have had a history with the Bloodsail. I mean, they worked with Van Cleef's Defias, and, we fought them there. By Kata then, Bloodsail shenanigans really got out of hand. They tried to take Booty Bay and kick out their rivals, the Blackwater Buccaneers, only of course to be thwarted by us. And that's where we killed Fleet Admiral Firulon. Then years pass, the Burning Legion invades Azeroth, and a special rogue meets the Uncrowned, or the Rogue Order Hall. And in there they find Fleet Admiral Tethys. Yeah, another Fleet Admiral of the Bloodsail, and of course he will work in Legion with his fellow scoundrels to thwart all the demonic stuff. But we haven't met the top dog, and that could be important. And again, what gives all of this lore a bit of a new edge is in 1007's Datamine lore book that talks about Captain Nightsquall's adventures, around the world. It talks about him finding treasure so great that he needs a federation of all of Azeroth's pirates to get in. He mentions the Defias and the Bloodsail as a part of that plan. But you'd almost think that to need that, that base, he would need to perhaps go to Bloodsail Hold on Plunder Isle and do something. As for the original lore of the Bloodsail captain, he basically was a noble of Lordaeron that decided to, pursue a change in career. Okay, the next one is actually bonkers, but it is real. Beetle Island. I can't believe I never heard of it. It's insane, and it comes from a Warcraft 2 map. Here's the lore. Medivh's portal madness summoned in a truly massive beetle-like creature that was formed from these otherworldly energies. It rampaged across the land, devouring everything and risking havoc for both sides. So, in an extraordinary feat of magic, apparently one unmatched thus far, and remember, at this time Warcraft 3 hasn't happened yet, the Violet Citadel's mages polymorphed this colossal beetle at the same time that the Orcish Death Knights unleashed an onslaught of decay spells. This mix of transformation and destruction basically formed an island. I mean, imagine what it would look like. An eldritch being destroyed mid-transformation by decay magic. That's insane. It reminds me of weird cosmic horror. You could even go as far and take it in a more less expected direction. Think about the film Annihilation, right? I love the art direction of that film. That would be very interesting. And I mean, yes, this is fringe lore. But after us being to the Shadowlands and seeing all of those devourers, the massive beast, the massive eldritch beast that formed Beetle Isle when it exploded, does kind of seem like a massive devourer, doesn't it? Okay, next. The South Sea Islands. Many don't remember them, but they were actually there in vanilla south of Tanaris. They're even in Chronicle's world map, but they were removed in Cataclysm. Years before Chronicle, though, which does mean that Chronicle maintained their canonicity. They even actually played quite a role in the past, one that fans of, say, Barney's Shifting Sands series will remember, because you had to get there for the Scepter of the Shifting Sands, like the really big quest. But the problem is, you would die of fatigue with the swim. So, either via special tactics or a swim speed boost granting side quest, you actually could get there. And when you were there, they were pretty bare. There were goblin and gnomish buildings, but not much. But who's to say that there's only a few of these islands? It could indeed be a gateway into quite a bit more. The idea of a South Seas expansion has been covered quite a bit. A little bit of that was covered in BFA. A little bit of that was covered, of course, in Pandaria. But who knows? There have been lots of funny little islands dotted all over the place. It only takes Blizzard just deciding to do something with them. I mean, hell, the big city of Undermine. If they wanted to do something with Undermine, I'm sure they could. Alright, but that's not it. So we've covered this extensively in another video, but when we're talking about places left to explore, I mean, we could not cover these, right? We've learned of a place called Avaloren, where a bunch of people that Odin called heretics ended up being shacked up. The name is kind of similar to Avalon. I mean, Avalorn. There is a place in Lordaeron called New Avalon as well, which, is sort of the area thought of as being the cradle of humanity. So, I mean, how can there be a new Avalon if there is not an old Avalon? Or maybe an Avalorn? After all, a place called Tears Fall was eventually named Tearsfall, as in Tearsfall Glades. so it's not insane to think. What we do know is this was a pre-sundering island, and whoever these heretics were, they were actually strong enough to repel Odin's expeditions. This is fresh lore, hot off patch 10.0, so everything mentioned in this video, of everything in this video, I'd say this is the one we are most likely to see at some stage. Of course, if you would like to learn more, you gotta check out this video afterwards. But what's really huge is that this could cascade into being the first canonical reference of lands on the other side of Azeroth. No, I'm not messing you around. Back in vanilla, Blizzard rewrote the Warcraft 3 manual into a book called The Old Gods and the Order of Azeroth. It is very biased, and even by Mists of Pandaria, we knew it was suspicious because it was canonically giving a false account of the Well of Eternity's creation. Well, recently, Blizzard actually called back to that book, and they essentially give us Neltharion's personal copy of it. We basically stumble into this, and we actually find that he wrote a whole bunch of scribbles and research in the margins of the book. So get this. The Titans made giants to shape the earth, creating one perfect continent, calling it Kalimdor, right? That is an excerpt from the original book. But the notes in the margins say that the author who wrote those words is either a fool or a liar who is ignorant, quote, of what lies beyond the waves. Now remember, this was written at a time where the known continents were whole. The only islands are perhaps Avaloren and the Dragon Isles. So either Avaloren is what lies beyond the waves, or this is confirmation that separate to Avaloren there is some sort of second landmass at the rear of the planet. It may seem insane, right, for that to be something we've missed, but do remember, places like Pandaria can be magically shrouded, and that would explain why you wouldn't be able to see them, say, up from the Vindicar. And any time where we have had an actual global perspective on Azeroth, what have we seen? Only a small amount of it, and only from a set angle. Yes, we've seen globes of Azeroth in places like Ulduar, but they're made by the Titanforged, who literally don't want us to find out what's going on beyond the waves. And also, tales of those who sailed east of east or west of west, essentially to an unknown part of the world, those tales all have them never returning, per the role-playing game, which is not full canon. But plenty of RPG things have been worked into the game, and of course with the idea being alive in the community for years, Blizzard probably knew how this would be received. I'd say they especially did it whenever they mentioned that that's where the Night Squall went. He sailed beyond the Veiled Sea, and it heavily implies that he's able to make it back. So, the whole, what's on the other side of the world? What's beyond the map? It's now canon. Plus, look at the Sargeras cinematic. The continents that we know clearly do not fill the whole globe. So there you go, the unexplored places. But there are more. Mother teased many more old facilities that we haven't seen. There are one or two place names that are just name dropped out of nowhere and have no background lore in patch 10.0.7. So hey, this stuff's going somewhere. All of those old facilities that Mother mentioned, they've got to be somewhere on the planet, right? So there you go, all the unexplored places in Azeroth that I could think of. And if you loved a video like this and you want something else similar, check out this one next. Thanks for watching. See you next time.